For more than 6 decades, Tina Turner stood on stages around the world as one of the greatest performers music has ever known. Her explosive energy, unmistakable voice, and fearless performances earned her the title of the Queen of Rock and Roll. Millions watched her command sold-out arenas. Millions admired the dazzling costumes, the unstoppable confidence, and the smile that never seemed to fade. To the world, Tina Turner looked unstoppable. She was the woman who could survive anything, the woman who lost everything, and somehow came back stronger than ever. But behind the thunderous applause, behind the platinum records, behind the standing ovations, was a life marked by pain that very few people truly understood. Long before she became a global icon, she was a frightened little girl growing up in rural Tennessee, searching for love in a home where affection often felt out of reach. Long before audiences celebrated her strength, she questioned her own worth. And long before the world called her a survivor, she endured years of fear behind closed doors. For much of her life, Tina rarely spoke publicly about the deepest emotional wounds she carried. She focused instead on her music, her performances, and the future she fought so hard to build. But as the years passed, through her autobiography, documentaries, and carefully chosen interviews, she began speaking more honestly than ever before. Not to reopen old wounds, but to help others understand that surviving abuse is possible. Her words were never about revenge. They were about truth. They were about healing. And before the story ends, you'll hear who Tina Turner herself said abused her, how that experience changed the course of her entire life, and why her words continue to resonate with millions today. Stay with us until the very end. Long before the world knew her as Tina Turner, she was Anna Mae Bullock. She was born on November 26, 1939, in Nutbush, Tennessee, a small farming community where life revolved around hard work, church, and survival. Her parents, Floyd and Zelma Bullock, worked tirelessly, but their marriage was troubled. The instability inside their home would become one of the earliest sources of pain in Tina's life. As a young girl, she often felt overlooked. In later interviews and in her memoir Tina, she reflected on feeling unwanted after her mother left the family. That abandonment left emotional scars she carried for decades. She would later describe herself as a child who desperately wanted to be loved. While other children dreamed about toys or adventures, Anna Mae dreamed about belonging. Music became her escape. She sang in the church choir. She listened carefully to rhythm and blues. Whenever music played, something inside her came alive. It was one of the few places where fear disappeared. As she grew older, life brought more uncertainty. She eventually moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where she reunited with her mother and sister. The city exposed her to a completely different world. Nightclubs buzzed with live music. Local bands filled dance floors with excitement. For the first time, Anna Mae felt close to the life she had imagined. One evening, everything changed. She visited the Manhattan Club, where a talented bandleader named Ike Turner was performing with his Kings of Rhythm. At first, she was simply another audience member. But fate had different plans. During an intermission, Anna Mae picked up a microphone and began singing B.B. King's "You Know I Love You." The room fell silent. Her powerful voice stunned everyone, including Ike Turner himself. He immediately recognized something extraordinary. He invited her to perform with the band. It was the opportunity she had always dreamed about. Soon afterward, he gave her a new stage name, Tina Turner. The name would become legendary. Their musical chemistry was undeniable. Together, Ike and Tina Turner produced hit after hit. Songs like "A Fool in Love," "It's Gonna Work Out Fine," and later "River Deep, Mountain High" showcased Tina's electrifying voice. On stage, they looked unstoppable. Their performances were explosive. Every movement felt perfectly synchronized. Audiences believed they were witnessing one of music's greatest partnerships. Behind the curtains, however, reality was becoming much darker. Success came quickly. So did relentless pressure. The touring schedule was exhausting. Night after night, city after city, little sleep, constant rehearsals. Every performance demanded perfection. Tina pushed herself beyond exhaustion because failure never felt like an option. As her fame grew, those closest to the couple began noticing moments of tension. Ike demanded complete control over nearly every aspect of the act. He controlled rehearsals. He controlled recordings. He controlled finances. He expected absolute obedience. Publicly, Tina rarely challenged him. She smiled for photographers. She gave interviews. She performed with unmatched energy. Fans had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. The glamorous image remained intact. Yet even during those early years, small cracks were beginning to appear. Friends later recalled seeing Tina under enormous emotional pressure. She rarely complained. She simply worked harder. Perfection became a form of survival. She believed the audience deserved everything she had, even if she had nothing left to give. Looking back years later, Tina admitted that she often separated her stage persona from her private life. On stage, she became fearless. Off stage, life felt far more complicated. As the couple's success expanded internationally, expectations only increased. Recording sessions stretched endlessly. Tours became longer. The pressure surrounding fame intensified. To fans, Tina seemed happier than ever. To those paying close attention, something felt different. There were moments when her smile appeared forced. Moments when exhaustion showed through the makeup. Moments when silence said more than words ever could. Still, almost no one knew what she was enduring. The image presented to the public remained polished. The truth stayed hidden behind dressing room doors and hotel walls. For years, the world celebrated the music without realizing the cost at which it was being made. The woman delivering unforgettable performances every night was quietly fighting battles that audiences could neither see nor imagine. And those hidden battles were only beginning. Because behind the applause, behind the fame, behind one of the most successful acts in music history, lay a terrifying reality that Tina Turner would not fully reveal until years later. What she endured would eventually shock millions, redefine her life forever, and inspire survivors around the world. But before she could become a symbol of strength, she would first have to survive the darkest chapter of her life. For years, audiences saw Tina Turner as a force of nature. She walked onto the stage with unmatched confidence, filled arenas with energy, and delivered performances that left crowds breathless. Every night, she looked fearless. But as soon as the lights went out and the applause faded, she returned to a reality she later described as one of fear, control, and survival. The contrast between her public image and her private life could not have been greater. As her fame grew, so did the abuse she would later describe in interviews and in her 1986 autobiography, I, Tina. Tina said that the violence did not begin overnight. Instead, it became a pattern that gradually took over her life. She recalled that Ike Turner became increasingly controlling. According to Tina, he wanted complete authority over every aspect of their relationship and career. He controlled the music. He controlled the business. He controlled the touring schedule. And, as Tina later revealed, he tried to control her personally as well. In interviews over the years, Tina openly stated that Ike physically abused her throughout much of their marriage. She described being slapped, punched, kicked, and beaten. These were not isolated incidents. She said they became part of everyday life. Years later, speaking with Oprah Winfrey, Tina reflected that the violence had become so common that she almost accepted it as normal. That admission stunned millions. Not because people doubted her, but because they struggled to understand how someone so strong on stage could feel so powerless in private. The answer, Tina explained, was far more complicated than most people imagined. Abuse is rarely just physical. It slowly changes the way a person sees themselves. She spoke about living with constant psychological pressure. Every decision had consequences. Every conversation had to be carefully measured. She described walking on eggshells, never knowing what might trigger another explosion. Even success could become dangerous. If audiences praised Tina too much, if producers focused on her, if she attracted too much attention, she feared it could lead to anger once they were alone. Over time, the fear became part of her daily routine. She stopped thinking only about music. She began thinking about survival. Many people have asked the same question over the years. Why didn't she leave? It is a question Tina answered repeatedly, hoping people would better understand the reality faced by many survivors. She explained that there wasn't one simple reason. There were many. Fear was one of them. She feared what might happen if she tried to escape. There was also financial dependence. Although she was the star audiences came to see, much of the business remained under Ike's control. Leaving seemed impossible. Then there were her children. Tina wanted stability for them. She hoped things might improve. She believed that perhaps tomorrow would be different. Those hopes, however small, kept her staying far longer than she ever imagined. There was also something deeper. Years of emotional abuse had slowly weakened her confidence. She later admitted that she no longer believed she could build a life on her own. The confident woman fans saw under the spotlight was, away from the stage, questioning her own value. That is one of the cruelest effects of long-term abuse. It convinces people they cannot survive without the very person hurting them. Yet despite everything she endured, Tina never completely lost the determination that had lived inside her since childhood. The little girl from Nutbush who dreamed of a better life was still there, waiting, searching for the right moment. One of the most difficult periods came as the marriage continued to deteriorate during the 1970s. The success of the Ike and Tina Turner revue remained impressive. But behind the scenes, the relationship was collapsing. The emotional distance between them continued to grow. Tina later recalled reaching a point where she felt emotionally empty. She was no longer living. She was existing. In her memoir, she also described one of the darkest moments of her life. Overwhelmed by despair and believing there was no escape, she attempted suicide in 1968 by taking sleeping pills. She survived. Looking back years later, Tina said she realized she did not truly want to die. She wanted the suffering to end. That distinction became incredibly important in understanding her journey. Surviving that moment forced her to confront a painful truth. Something had to change. But change would still take years. During that time, Tina discovered Buddhism through friends. Its teachings became an unexpected source of strength. She began chanting daily. At first, she wasn't searching for fame or success. She was searching for peace. She later said the practice helped her believe that her life could become different. It gave her something she had nearly lost: hope. That hope would eventually carry her through the moment that changed everything. In July 1976, while traveling to a concert in Dallas, another violent confrontation took place before they reached the hotel. Tina later recounted that the incident became the final breaking point. When they arrived, she made a decision she had never believed possible. She walked away. She left with almost nothing. According to her own account, she carried only a small amount of money and a gas station credit card. She crossed a freeway and sought refuge at a nearby hotel. She had no clear plan, no guarantee of success, no certainty about tomorrow. Only one certainty remained: she could not go back. That single decision changed the course of music history. The days that followed were anything but glamorous. Despite being internationally famous, Tina found herself struggling financially. She accepted performances in smaller venues. She appeared in Las Vegas shows. She took television appearances wherever she could. Many people assumed her career was finished. Record companies showed little interest. Promoters doubted audiences would embrace her as a solo artist. Some believed she would always remain defined by the partnership she had left behind. They underestimated Tina Turner. She worked harder than ever, night after night, performance after performance. She slowly rebuilt her reputation from the ground up. One audience at a time, one song at a time, one opportunity at a time. Then came the comeback almost no one expected. In 1984, Tina released Private Dancer. The album became a worldwide phenomenon. Hits like What's Love Got to Do With It, Better Be Good to Me, and Private Dancer transformed her into one of the biggest solo stars on the planet. At an age when many believed a female artist's career had peaked, Tina reached heights she had never experienced before. She wasn't simply returning. She was rewriting history. And perhaps the greatest victory wasn't measured by album sales or Grammy Awards. It was the fact that she had reclaimed her own identity. For the first time in decades, Tina Turner was no longer defined by fear. She was defined by freedom. Yet even after building an extraordinary new life, she rarely spoke casually about the abuse she had survived. When she did, her purpose was never revenge. She wanted people to understand that leaving an abusive relationship is rarely simple. It requires courage, support, and hope. In interviews, She often expressed compassion for others trapped in similar situations. She wanted survivors to know they were not alone. As the years passed, Tina became more willing to reflect on those painful chapters. Not because the memories had disappeared, but because she believed sharing them could help someone else find the strength to leave. There was one deeply personal truth that carried extraordinary weight. A truth she would eventually speak about in her own words. Not through rumors, not through headlines, but through honest reflection. It was a statement that removed all doubt about who she believed had abused her, and why telling the truth mattered more than remaining silent. That moment would become one of the most powerful chapters of her entire life. For many years, Tina Turner chose silence. Not because she had forgotten what happened, not because the memories no longer hurt, but because she wanted her future to be bigger than her past. She had spent decades rebuilding her life, her confidence, and her career. She became one of the best-selling recording artists in history, won multiple Grammy Awards, filled stadiums around the world, and inspired countless performers who followed in her footsteps. To millions of fans, Tina Turner represented strength. But real strength, she believed, was not pretending the pain never existed. It was facing it honestly. As she grew older, Tina became more willing to discuss the darkest years of her life through her autobiography, Tina, later memoirs such as My Love Story, documentaries, and interviews with trusted journalists. And when she did, she never left any doubt about who had abused her. According to Tina Turner's own words, the man who abused her during their marriage was Ike Turner. She described years of physical violence, emotional manipulation, intimidation, and control. She did not make these statements late in life as a shocking revelation. She had spoken about them publicly for decades, beginning most prominently with the publication of Tina in 1986. Her purpose, she repeatedly explained, was not to destroy someone else's reputation. It was to tell the truth about what she had lived through. In interviews with Oprah Winfrey, Larry King, and other respected journalists, Tina consistently described the abuse in remarkably similar terms. She said she wanted people to understand that domestic violence could happen to anyone, even someone the world believed had everything. One of the most powerful things Tina ever shared was that abuse is not only about bruises. She explained that emotional control can become just as damaging. When someone constantly tells you that you are worthless, when they make you afraid to speak, when they convince you that you cannot survive without them, those wounds can last long after the physical injuries heal. That message resonated with survivors across the world. Many saw their own experiences reflected in Tina's story. They realized they were not alone. Perhaps the most remarkable part of Tina's journey was what happened after she escaped. She did not allow the abuse to define the rest of her life. That did not mean she forgot. It did not mean the pain disappeared. But she made a conscious decision not to let bitterness become her identity. In later interviews, Tina often spoke about forgiveness in a way that surprised many people. She explained that forgiveness was not about saying the abuse was acceptable. It was not about pretending the past never happened. Instead, she described forgiveness as something she did for herself. She once explained that holding on to hatred only keeps a person connected to the pain. Letting go, she believed, was part of becoming truly free. That perspective reflected the Buddhist philosophy she had embraced years earlier. Its teachings had helped her survive the darkest chapter of her life. Now they helped her find peace. After divorcing Ike Turner in 1978, Tina rebuilt not only her career but also her personal life. She eventually found lasting happiness with German music executive Erwin Bach. The two met in the mid-1980s and remained together for decades before marrying in 2013. Unlike the chaos that had defined her first marriage, Tina often described her relationship with Erwin as calm, supportive, and built on mutual respect. In My Love Story, she wrote about finally experiencing the kind of love she had once believed might never exist. Even during difficult health struggles later in life, including a stroke in 2013, intestinal cancer, and a kidney transplant in 2017, Erwin remained by her side. Tina frequently expressed deep gratitude for his unwavering support, describing him as someone who stood with her through life's greatest challenges. Those final years looked very different from the painful decades that came before. She lived quietly in Switzerland. She stepped away from constant public attention. She reflected on her extraordinary journey with honesty rather than regret. In the 2021 documentary Tina, she acknowledged that revisiting the past was emotionally exhausting. There were moments when she questioned whether she wanted to relive those memories again. But she also understood why people continued asking. Her story had become larger than her own life. It had become a source of hope. When the documentary explored the abuse she endured, Tina did not sensationalize it. She spoke with dignity, with sadness, but also with remarkable clarity. She wanted history to be accurate. She wanted survivors to know recovery was possible. She wanted people to understand that leaving an abusive relationship does not immediately erase the trauma. Healing takes time, sometimes years, sometimes decades. Even after becoming one of the world's biggest stars, Tina admitted there were memories she could never completely escape. But she refused to let those memories control her future. That may be the greatest lesson she left behind. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to move forward despite it. On May 24, 2023, Tina Turner passed away peacefully at her home in Küsnacht, Switzerland, after a long illness. She was 83 years old. Tributes poured in from around the globe. Artists, world leaders, and millions of fans remembered her not only as an extraordinary performer but as a woman whose courage reached far beyond the stage. For many survivors of domestic abuse, Tina's legacy extends beyond music. Her willingness to speak publicly about her experiences helped bring greater awareness to domestic violence at a time when many victims still felt unable to tell their own stories. By sharing her truth, she gave others permission to share theirs. She showed that surviving abuse is not a sign of weakness. Leaving requires extraordinary courage. Rebuilding requires even more. And healing is possible, even after unimaginable pain. Looking back on her remarkable life, it becomes clear that Tina Turner achieved something few people ever do. She transformed suffering into purpose. She turned silence into truth. She turned fear into freedom. And she turned survival into inspiration for generations she would never meet. Her songs will continue to fill arenas. Her performances will continue to amaze new audiences. But perhaps her greatest legacy is something no award could ever recognize. It is the hope she gave to people who believed they had no way out. The reminder that no matter how dark today may seem, tomorrow can still be different. Tina Turner once fought simply to survive. Later, she lived to inspire. And today, her story continues to remind the world that resilience is not measured by how many times life knocks us down. It is measured by the courage to stand back up, tell the truth, and keep moving forward. That is how Tina Turner deserves to be remembered. Not only as the incomparable queen of rock and roll, but as a woman who transformed unimaginable pain into extraordinary strength, enduring hope, and a legacy that will continue to empower survivors and music lovers for generations to come.